Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for the month of October. In the month of October, I'm going to be using my TBR machine website that spits out random reading prompts as I normally do. I'm also going to be trying to do Becca and the Books' Bookoplathon, or I think because it's October she's calling it Spookoplathon, which is kind of a mix between Monopoly and TBR picking. And then as well, I am still trying to make all my TBRs realistic. Have I achieved this yet? I don't know, but the way I've been trying to do it is basically I'm looking at the month of October as 4 weeks, and for each week I want to pick a physical book and an audiobook to read. I have already filled the first 2 weeks, so that means for the TBR machine and Bookoplathon I'm going to be picking 4 prompts each. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate 1 TBR machine prompt and then also roll the dice for a Bookoplathon prompt, and we're going to try and pick a book that matches both prompts. Now I do also want to pick 2 of those books off my physical TBR shelf, which is now just 3 books, which I kind of think is going to make it really hard. If I can't find a book that matches both prompts, then I'll use the prompts separately and pick 2 books. And if I roll doubles and end up with too many books, I don't know. I think I'm just going to panic. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But actually, before we get into picking the prompts, let me tell you about the books that are already filling slots. So the first physical slot is going to be filled by the 4th Brandon Sanderson Secret Project book. This will be his last Secret Project book. And I should be getting the ebook on the 1st of October. I'm not sure when the physical one will come, but hopefully not too far after that, because I think they've sorted out a lot of their order fulfillment issues that they were having at the beginning of the year. All I know about this one is it is a Cosmere book, I think a Stormlight Archive type one. I don't really know any more than that, and I'm kind of happy not to. The only thing I'm a little bit afraid is that it might spoil things, but hopefully not. I haven't seen anyone say that it might spoil you if you haven't read some of the later books. I wouldn't expect it to, given the whole way the secret projects have been working. Anyway, then as well in the first week, I'm hoping to get an audiobook of Crown of Stars. I did actually have this on my September TBR, but I have just heard that the audiobook for this is supposed to be coming out at the end of September. I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to be available in New Zealand, because sometimes that happens with audiobook announcements, but I guess fingers crossed I'll be able to read this. This is the final book in the Crown of Stars series, which is a 7-book epic fantasy series. It has been a lot of people fighting over the throne, but also some dark magic going on, a bunch of mythological creatures. The magic is kind of astronomy based, which I really liked. However, the 6th book was a little bit disappointing to me, and I'm not really sure what direction the 7th book is going to go in, because in a lot of ways I feel like the 5th book brought a lot of the most interesting plot threads to an end, almost. So I guess we will see what happens with this book, but I'm hoping to get the audiobook. Then as well, I do have the library book of Best Served Cold. This is currently being read by Becca's Backlist Book Club, and I think if I read this in the 2nd week of October, I'm going to be late for that live show. However, I am actually going to pick this up in September. I just have my doubts as to whether I can finish it because it's such a fatty. So I think it's quite likely that I will need some time for this in October. This one I also don't know much about, other than that it is like a spin-off or a continuation of the First Law trilogy. So I recently read the First Law trilogy, which is kind of a grimdark series, but I believe that this is not the same characters, even if it is set in the same world. But I really loved the characters from the first trilogy, and I love the whole vibe of the thing. So I'm hoping I'll love the vibe of this as well. And then lastly, I have been rereading the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy in preparation for the Fragile Threads of Power, which is coming out. I do have a hold on that at the library. It is coming out, or has come out, in September, but I'm just not going to get my hands on it. But also I'm also still not ready to read it until I read this last book in the original trilogy. I feel like most people have heard about the Darker Shades of Magic trilogy by now, but if you haven't, basically there are different Londons: Grey London, Our London, which has no magic; Red London, which has lots of magic; White London, which is kind of starved of magic; and then Black London, where something terrible happened and it was locked away. And we're following, I guess, one character who's able to move between the different Londons, and a few other characters that have come together to help him with this dark magical threat, which I think is really going to come into play in this book. I have read this before, and I remember really loving it, so hopefully it'll stand up to that memory. Alright, so with that all out of the way, now we can finally do the prompts for the 4 final slots of the month. I really hope it only works out with us picking 4 books right now. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to generate a TBR machine prompt, and then we'll do the Bookopoly one. So first prompt, read a book written for young adults. This is one of these prompts that's really broad, but does give us some opportunities. I think probably either of these two on my physical list could fit for that. But what's the chances that Bookopoly will help me out with this? I don't know. This year I have been a little bit lazy. I haven't printed out the board, but I do have some dice here, and I do have my Bookopolathon board on my Miro board that I use all the time, so I think I can make it work like that. But let's roll the dice and see where we end up. So we've got 8. I've got my Cactua here, who I normally would use a physical Cactua as my game piece. Okay, so we start here and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Green. I'm just going to assume this means green on the cover, which I think means we're going to go with this one. You have to look very closely to see the green on the cover, but I don't care because the other book that I had to choose from was just orange. So this one is a book set in the Dragons of Pern world. I don't actually know much about it than that. I mostly have been giving up on the Dragons of Pern series. I read 17 books in the series, but I thought that was enough because the writing style doesn't 100% agree with me. However, I had this beautiful copy that my sister gave me and I kind of just wanted to read it. I know it has some art pages throughout it. Just some little sketches and stuff, I think. So I think this is actually a short story anthology set in the world of Pern. Previously I haven't done that great with short stories, but just right now I'm reading a short story anthology and really making great progress with it. So maybe I'm ready to read another short story anthology. Hopefully, because that is going on the TBR. Alright, so now let's pick our second TBR machine prompt. We have read a book set in a school or a university. Of the 2 books on my TBR, I think the one most likely to fulfill it is this one. So this is like a Greek myth retelling, except it's not a retelling. It's set like 10 years before the Trojan War, and it's following Menelaus, and then he's getting into a bit of trouble, and his best friend Odysseus is going to help him out. And because they're teenagers, I assume they're still in school, even though this is a Greek myth retelling. Maybe. So maybe we'll get this on the TBR. Maybe. So I need to roll the dice for Bookopoly. And we've got 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What does it say? Daphne du Maurier. I have some Daphne du Maurier that I actually would really like to read. But I don't actually remember, what is the point of these squares? Let me read the instructions. Because it would be much better if I could match my TBR machine prompt. Read a gothic story is what it says here, or read a book by Daphne du Maurier. This is not gothic. Neither is the other one. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to put this on the list for the TBR machine, and then we're going to find a Daphne du Maurier book that I can get the audiobook of. That's a plan. Let me see what my library has. Okay, Rebecca that I've already read, and it does have My Cousin Rachel, and I wanted to read My Cousin Rachel, and I think I wanted to read it because I heard Becca say it was good. Is that something I've made up in my mind? I don't know, but I need to place a hold, but I think it could come through in time. I don't know if I've decided whether that means I still need to pick 2 more joint prompts or just 1, but we're going to do 1 more and then I'll see how I feel about the TBR. Okay, so let's pick the 3rd TBR machine prompt. Ooh, read a book by your favorite author. Who is my favorite author these days? Honestly, I don't know, but I think I could claim lots of them to be potentials. I've just remembered I made a list recently of all my favorite authors. Does it have to be one of that list? Maybe it does. Okay, let's do the Bookopoly prompt. Rolling them too far apart. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What a ghostly scene. Oh, these are all based on Taylor Swift lyrics. I wish I was a Taylor Swift fan, but I am not. Read a book that features ghosts or a haunting/haunted house. So a haunted house or like a ghost story by one of my most favorite authors. I'll need to research this one. A big problem here is that a lot of my favorite authors haven't actually released things that I haven't read. Okay, I found one, but it's not an audiobook, so I can get Tombs by Junji Ito from my library. I love Junji Ito's like horror manga stuff, but it's manga. That's definitely not going to be something I could read in audiobook form. And it's a short story manga anthology, so I think it's multiple stories, but it says something about a house next door and someone in the window or something, so I think that fits. So I think I'm going to get that. But I think then we will roll, or we will generate 1 more prompt. And hopefully we can do an audiobook for this one. So, final prompt, hopefully. Read a book that has a number in the title. I bet I have hardly any of those on my TBR list. But let's see. Let's roll a final Bookopoly prompt. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jigsaw. Once again, I need to get the instructions out. Jigsaw. Do you want to play a game? A book that features games, trials, tournaments. That should be a good combo, right? Numbers and tournaments. Let me see what I can find. Okay, so maybe this is a stretch, but I think what we're going to go with is First We Were Four by Alexandra Sirowy. I'm not sure about that pronunciation, and I actually don't know much about this, but it specifically uses the word game in the synopsis, so I'm going to count it because of that, and it also has 4 in the title, so we're counting it. I have wanted to read it for a while. I think it's supposed to be a little bit dark academia, a little bit like a YA thriller. It actually has a really low rating, and I'm not sure if it's going to be for me, but I did have it on my list. I have wanted to read it for a while. I know a lot of people who actually like it, so hopefully it will be for me. Okay, so I don't know how that's been for you because I don't know how well I'm going to edit this together, but it felt fairly chaotic to me, and I haven't really kept track properly of what I committed to. But hopefully editing me has put it together in a pretty way here. I do know the pile of books I have here is quite big. This seems like a lot. However, at least 2 of these I'll be reading as audiobooks, and one of them I will hopefully have started in September, so that means maybe this isn't too bad a pile. I will also, though, be adding Tombs by Junji Ito to the pile, which I imagine is quite thick, but should be a quick read. And I don't think I have too many audiobooks, so I think maybe we've still managed to keep to the realistic TBR that I was hoping to build. As well, I do have some graphic novels. I'm not going to try and plan graphic novels too much, so I'm not going to tell you what I'm hoping to read, but I do have this one from the library, The Night Eaters by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, who are the creators of the monstrous graphic novels that I really love. I don't really know much about this. I really love Sana Takeda's art, although I think this is a little bit different in style. I think it's just about 2 sisters who have to call their mother in for help with a problem that they're having. But the cover was beautiful, so I wanted to read it. And that's the only one I'm going to plan for the month. And we'll see what else we get through in terms of graphic novels. I guess we'll see how challenging this pile actually works out to be. But anyway, let me know if you are doing Bookopoly-thon or if you're reading anything exciting in September. Let me know if you think I'm going to like any of these books, if you've read them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.